You have to believe in yourself even when no one else believes in you. Serena Williams. In the profound depths of life's silence, when it seems every sound, every word of encouragement, every trusting glance, and every helping hand is swallowed into an endless void, that statement is no longer mere advice but becomes a survival command for the soul. Faith from the outside is fragile like morning dew, vanishing with a single breeze, while inner faith, forged through trials by fire, is like steel that only grows stronger the more it is tempered. We often crave validation from others, like a child seeking an approving look to confirm the path they are on. Yet that dependence invisibly becomes a cage that confines us. When the applause falls silent, many immediately begin to doubt themselves, like a boat adrift in the night sea with no distant shore lights in sight. In truth, the issue does not lie in the silence of the outside world, but in our failure to become the lighthouse that illuminates our own journey. Believing in yourself is not blind illusion, but a profound awareness of your inner worth, understanding that your potential exists without needing anyone's approval. It is the moment you dare to walk in the darkness without anyone to guide you, because you know you carry a warm flame within. And that faith, though small at first, will spread like glowing embers, powerful enough to consume all doubt, denial, and fear of failure. When the world turns its back, that is not the end, but a challenge for you to confront yourself. And if you stand firm and continue to move forward with determination, then you are not only believing in yourself, you are being reborn from the profound silence of the universe. Take responsibility for your life. Understand that you and no one else will take you where you want to go. Les Brown. There is a truth many people avoid. Life is not a river carrying us aimlessly, but a boat that demands we take the helm ourselves. People often seek external culprits for their failures, circumstances, others, fate as a defense mechanism to avoid facing their own sense of powerlessness. But that very avoidance becomes an invisible rope, keeping them stuck in the same place. Taking responsibility is not a burden, but true power. When you realize that every choice, big or small, shapes the trajectory of your life, you simultaneously hold the ability to change it. That is the magical transformation, from victim of circumstances to master architect of your own destiny. Like someone standing at a crossroads, if you wait for someone else to show the way, you'll stand there forever. But if you dare to step forward, even if you might make mistakes, you are charting your own path. Taking control of your life requires inner maturity, the ability to accept mistakes without collapsing, and the ability to stand up without needing anyone to lift you. It is like learning to walk in the dark on your own, at first stumbling and confused, but gradually your eyes adjust to the darkness, and you realize you were never as blind as you thought. No one can live your life for you, just as no one can carry the dreams you haven't dared to pursue. When you truly understand that you yourself are the one guiding you to your destination, a quiet freedom will fill you. No more blaming, no more waiting, only pure action and profound awareness. And in that silence, you will realize life has never been a predetermined sentence. It has always been a masterpiece waiting for you to complete it, with the pen still in your hand. We are products of our past, but we do not have to be prisoners of it. Rick Warren. Humans carry their past like rich sediment. Every memory, wound, moment of glory, or heartbreak settles and forms the psychological foundation of the present. Saying we are products of our past is an undeniable truth. Our thoughts, fears, and desires are largely echoes from days gone by. But the real tragedy begins when we confuse product with prisoner. At that point, the past is no longer a solid foundation, but turns into an invisible cage built from memories and reinforced by limiting beliefs. People tend to cling to old stories to define themselves. I fail because I have failed before. I am not worthy because I was once rejected. Those implicit beliefs act like repeating scripts, distorting the present according to the mold of the past. However, the subtle point is this: memories do not hold absolute power. It is how we interpret them that becomes the real chains. A scar can be proof of pain, but it can also be a radiant symbol of fierce vitality. Freeing yourself does not mean denying the past, but wisely redefining it. Like an artist standing before a raw block of stone, you cannot change the original material, but you have full right to decide its final shape. When you look back at old experiences through a new lens, finding lessons in failure, strength in wounds, you are transforming the past from a captor into a wise, silent teacher. Psychological freedom does not come from forgetting, but from no longer allowing it to control you. The past still exists like a shadow behind you, but you no longer turn back to it for guidance. You step firmly forward with the awareness that you are shaped by what has passed, but not limited by it. And in that moment, you are not just escaping the past, you are rising above it. When you find yourself in a difficult situation and everything is against you, never give up, for that is precisely the moment and place where luck will turn. Harriet Beecher Stowe. There are times in life when people are pushed to the fragile boundary between perseverance and surrender, where every door seems to close at once, and the world becomes cold and unfamiliar. When everything is against you, it is not only external adversity, but also the rebellion of inner doubts, the whispering voice that you are not capable enough, that it is time to stop. But in that suffocating moment, the reminder never give up ceases to be ordinary encouragement and becomes a powerful act of defiance, a resolute refusal in the face of chaos. Difficulties are not the final wall blocking your path, but the turning point of the journey, like the darkest moment just before dawn, when darkness reaches its deepest depth. People often see pressure as a sign of failure, but in many cases, it is the signal of an impending miraculous transformation. When things become harsh, it means you are approaching the old limits of yourself, and right at that boundary, transformation begins to quietly bloom. Giving up now is no different from leaving right before the mysterious door opens, simply because you can't endure the final seconds of darkness. Human will is not an infinite source of energy, but a muscle. The more it is tested, the stronger it grows. Those who persevere are not those who never get tired, but those who understand that the urge to give up often comes right before the turning point. They see difficulties as a test, not a final verdict, as a storm to weather, not a fate to endure forever. When you continue to move forward, even slowly or shakily, you will discover something miraculous. Luck is not something that falls from the sky, but the inevitable result of never stopping. It is like the wheel of fate, which only begins to turn when you still have the courage to push it one more time. Therefore, in the moment that seems most hopeless, do not turn away, because it may very well be the place where life is quietly preparing to change direction brilliantly for you. When we trust in ourselves, we can dare to risk curiosity, wonder, spontaneous delight, or any experience that reveals the human spirit. When a person truly trusts in themselves, an invisible door in the mind swings wide open, leading into the realm of authentic experiences, where curiosity is no longer restrained by fear, and sudden surges of joy are not doubted or controlled. It is the moment you allow yourself to live fully, because without inner faith, people tend to shrink back, avoiding risks as if avoiding a wound that might reopen. They reject the unknown not because it is dangerous, but because they do not believe they have the strength to face the consequences. But once self-belief is strengthened, the mindset shifts from defense to exploration. At that point, taking risks is no longer reckless, but a deliberate leap into uncharted territory, like a child stepping into the vast ocean for the first time, not because it knows everything, but because it trusts its own ability to learn. Curiosity becomes the guiding compass, wonder turns into a precious reward, and moments of sudden joy become vivid proof that life is not just a series of repetitive, mundane days, but a journey full of color and vitality. This is the state where the self is no longer bound by old frameworks, but begins to expand, embracing countless new possibilities. You no longer fear mistakes, because you understand that every experience, success, or failure is a piece revealing the profound human spirit within. The most frightening thing is no longer failure, but never having dared to live life fully. Believing in yourself is granting yourself the right to experience life in the most authentic and intense way. And in the flow of curiosity, wonder, and spontaneous joy, you are not only discovering the outer world, you are gradually discovering yourself, layer by layer, like gentle light seeping through the cracks of the soul, illuminating the beauty that has long existed but never been admired. If you don't take the time to create the life you want, you will eventually be forced to spend a lot of time dealing with a life you don't want. We often postpone building the life we desire, but we cannot postpone living with the consequences of that very postponement. We hesitate out of fear of failure, laziness to change, or being seduced by short-term easy pleasures. Yet those seemingly harmless small choices quietly shape a reality we never wanted. Life, in that way, does not collapse in one dramatic moment, but is gradually eroded over time by a lack of initiative. Not spending time building the dreamed life is a form of voluntarily surrendering power. You unintentionally hand over decision-making to circumstances, old habits, and the aimless currents of your surroundings. Then one day, you wake up in an unfamiliar reality. Work loses meaning, relationships become burdensome, and each day passes like an obligation rather than a free choice. At that point, you are no longer living to create your life, but only living to cope with it, like a soldier trapped in a trench he dug himself. Building a life is like cultivating a garden. If you don't sow seeds, don't tend it, don't patiently water it, weeds will grow wildly on their own. And the irony is that removing the weeds later always requires far more effort than planting from the very beginning. The initiative you take today, even if slow or difficult, is how you buy freedom for tomorrow. Because otherwise, you will pay the price with time, energy, and peace to fix a life you could have created long ago. Find out who you are and live with purpose. Dolly Parton. Who am I? Is not a question about name, occupation, or social role, but a journey of discovering your deepest essence where core values, true desires, and even fears intertwine into a complex, colorful psychological map. Find out who you are and live with purpose is not just an inspiring slogan, but a sincere invitation to embark on an inner journey that demands ruthless honesty with yourself. Because most people are living like actors in a play scripted by society, repeating expectations, standards, and borrowed dreams without ever truly asking themselves, is this really my life? Not understanding yourself leads people into a state of reactive living, acting out of habit, choosing based on external pressure, and existing like a leaf drifting with the current. Without purpose, even great achievements become empty because they lack inner meaning. On the contrary, when you begin to explore yourself, recognizing what makes you come alive and what drains you, you are redrawing the map of your life with your own hands. It is not an easy journey, but like peeling away layers of masks stuck to the skin, painful yet profoundly liberating. Living with purpose is when every action, no matter how small, is connected to a clear direction like an arrow that always knows its target. You no longer work merely to survive, but to draw closer to the person you long to become. You no longer choose based on fear of judgment, but based on harmony with your deepest core values. Then life is no longer a random, meaningless chain of days, but a journey full of meaning, where every step carries a reason for existing. Finding out who you are is not the final destination, but a continuous process, an endless dialogue with your own soul. But right in that process, you will realize an important truth. You do not need to become anyone else to live a life of value. You only need the courage to be yourself consciously, purposefully, and without compromise to the mediocrity the world casually imposes. No need to hurry, no need to sparkle, no need to be anybody but yourself. Virginia Woolf. There is an invisible pressure that seeps into modern life to be faster, to stand out more, to become a better version according to outside standards. In that chaotic flow, the words, no need to hurry, no need to sparkle, no need to be anybody but yourself, ring out like a necessary pause, a liberation of the soul from a marathon with no finish line. Because haste often stems not from genuine desire, but from fear of being left behind. And the effort to sparkle is sometimes just a subtle way to seek recognition, like a lamp burning too brightly only to be noticed, then quickly fading in loneliness. People lose themselves not because they are weak, but because they are too sensitive to the gaze of the world around them. They put on countless masks, a more successful version, a more interesting version, a more accepted version, until they no longer recognize their own true face. And in that state, every achievement carries a bland taste because it does not belong to the real person inside. This advice does not promote passivity, but encourages a different kind of courage. The courage to slow down, the courage not to prove yourself, and the courage to exist exactly as you are. No need to hurry because each person has their own rhythm and growth cannot be forced like a machine. No need to sparkle because true value lies not in being noticed, but in living fully. And most importantly, no need to be anyone else because every comparison is a form of self-denial. When you stop chasing outside models, something strange happens. You begin to hear your inner voice more clearly. Peace does not come from being good enough in others' eyes, but from no longer needing that at all. You do not need to shine like the sun to have value. Sometimes simply existing like a small candle, quiet yet true, is enough to light your own life. And in that gentle light, you will realize being yourself, without haste, without performance, is the deepest form of freedom a person can reach. It is the ability to turn dreams into reality that makes life interesting. Paulo Coelho. What keeps life from falling into monotonous boredom is the miraculous ability of humans, bringing what is invisible in the mind into the bright light of reality. People do not live merely to exist, but to transform. Dreams, by nature, are not an escape from reality, but a rough blueprint for a future yet to be created. They are like a tiny spark in the dark night, fragile and easily extinguished, but if nurtured by will and action, they can blaze into a flame strong enough to warm and change everything around them. The problem lies in the fact that many stop at mere dreaming. They gaze at beautiful visions from afar like standing before a painting, but never dare to step inside and create with their own hands. The psychology of fearing failure, rejection, or even success keeps dreams frozen in the world of imagination. Yet, it is precisely the process full of stumbles, mistakes, and moments when you feel like giving up that makes life truly alive when turning dreams into reality. That is when you are no longer a passive spectator of yourself, but become a masterful creator. This journey is like pulling an idea from the invisible realm down to solid ground, step by step, through persistent action and iron will. Every small step forward is an affirmation that you have the right to shape your own life. And that very movement creates the strange allure of life, not because of the final result, but because you are participating in a vibrant process where everything can change in beautiful ways. What makes life worth living is not how many dreams you have, but how many of them you dare to make real. Because when a dream becomes reality, it not only changes the outer world, but also transforms the way you see yourself. And in that moment, you realize life is not interesting because it is easy, but because you possess the ability to turn the impossible into possible, little by little, with the very power of your will to exist. Failure is a great teacher, and if you are willing to embrace it, every mistake brings a lesson. Oprah Winfrey. Failure, in the eyes of the crowd, often takes the form of a crack, a sign of weakness, something to hide and forget. But in the depths of psychology, failure is like a harsh yet utterly honest teacher. It does not flatter the ego, does not paint illusions, but forces a person to confront themselves in their most naked state. This saying is not romanticizing pain, but a profound reminder that every mistake contains a precious message. The only question is whether we have the courage to listen. When failure strikes, the natural human reaction is to avoid, blame, or belittle oneself. That is the defense mechanism to protect the ego from hurt. But that very mechanism unintentionally locks the door to learning. Because failure only truly becomes a great teacher when we stop resisting and start observing what went wrong, why it went wrong, and how we can do it differently. Like a mirror that never lies, mistakes reflect the blind spots in our perception, things that success often hides behind dazzling glory. Imagine a blacksmith standing before a raw piece of metal. Each hammer strike, each heating is a small failure breaking the original shape. Yet it is through that process that a stronger, more refined structure is formed. If the metal could feel, it might call it pain, but from the blacksmith's perspective, it is the perfect process of gestation. The real value of failure does not lie in its occurrence, but in how we choose to respond to it. If we are willing to embrace it, each mistake becomes a hidden step forward. A new layer of understanding is accumulated, an old limit is broken. And when we look back at the journey, we will realize it is precisely those stumbles, not the smooth steps, that have quietly guided us to a more mature, stronger version of ourselves.